And it's now time to move on to our third discussion of the morning. This time, in line with what we've discussed so far, we're going to talk about how we can create environments where people can express themselves fully and grow. Human-centric environments, really focused on people. And for this discussion, I'd like you all to please join me in extending a very warm welcome to our participants and our moderator, Kavita Bindra, and her panelists, Katie Lichtfield, Stefan Ulrich, and Karima Sylvent. Please join me, like I've said, in warming them, greeting them very warmly.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, come on, we can do better than that. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kavita Bindra. I'm the Assistant Dean for Executive Education at the Yale School of Management. And I'm really thrilled to be joining this distinguished panel of experts to talk about human-centric organizations. Recent reports indicate that younger generations prioritize aligning their values with their company and feeling supported in their personal development, even beyond the workplace. Inclusive dialogue and growth in the workplace involve fostering open, respectful communication that values diverse perspectives and experiences. This approach promotes collaboration, innovation, and personal development, ensuring equal opportunities for growth and advancement while enriching the company culture. How do companies create such environments? How do they retain and nurture talent for the long term? And what soft skills are becoming increasingly essential in this human-centered approach? So to talk about all of these things, I'm really pleased to be joined by Katie Lichtfield, founder of WeQual, Karima Sylvent, Group Chief Human Resources Officer at AXA Group, and Stefan Ulrich, President of Pharmaceuticals at Bayer. So I'd like to open a question to all of you. We tend to use the word centricity in reference to clients, but in this session, we're widening the focus to people in general. So my first question is, what is a human-centric organization to you? What qualities does a human-centric organization possess? And Karima, perhaps we'll start with you.
I'd like to start with a concept which I like and which guides my work, which is the concept of reciprocity. I think the businesses that are the most successful are the ones that apply the same intent to customers as to their employees. If you want to be successful with your customers in your business, whatever the business, and our business is protection at AXA, you need to have this intent as well around your employees. And so for me, people centricity and customer centricity are the two faces of the same coin. It's about listening, empathy, caring, but as well daring as well sometimes to challenge. So for me, these are exactly the same dimensions and ingredients at the end to be successful and to have an impact.
I love that framing of the two sides of the same coin. Katie, would you like to answer the question?
Thank you, Kavita. Hello, everybody. I'm Katie, founder of WeQual. And I think for me and for WeQual, it's always about people. That's who we are dealing with every day for customers or employees. I think empathy, listening, says a lot. And I think you mentioned about soft skills, but at WeQual, we like to call them power skills, which I think is something really to take away today. But for us, it's all about making everyone feel heard, valued, and that everyone is listening.
So I'm hearing common words, listening, empathy. Stefan, would you like to weigh in?
Thank you, Kavita, and thanks for having me here in Paris. It's wonderful to be here, so it's a real treat. So I think there cannot be a successful company without people centricity, because you need to have an environment in which people can bring the best of themselves and the fullest of themselves to work. So we need to be intentional as we run companies about that, and we need to create an environment and an ecosystem in which people can actually do that. We measure that typically in engagement scores, but we need to be really intentional. In our case, for example, and you may have read about this, we're doing something that we now call dynamic shared ownership, where we try to empower people to actually be able to make 95% of all decisions at the lowest level of the organization. We have less functional input and more, we call them micro-enterprises. So they are all very people-centric, ultimately. Yes, serving customers, yes, creating innovative products, but ultimately without people, none of our business is anything unless we go into the AI world without people, but as long as we have people, we need to center around them.
Thank you. Katie, I'd like to ask you about what we often hear about, the leaky pipeline for women in leadership. What innovative strategies have you seen that not only retain women in the workforce, but provide meaningful pathways for their visibility, growth, and development over the long term?
Thanks, Kavita. I'm going to tell a short little story, if that's okay.
Great.
So I was 17 years in the corporate world, and I noticed that there weren't that many women at the top. So I quit my job, and I spoke to hundreds of CEOs, and I said to them, why aren't you hiring more women onto your executive committees? What's the reason? And the most common answer was, we can't find them. So I quit my job and I started 3 things. So number 1, started the Weekwell Awards. These are the first awards ever for women, 1 level below the executive committee on listed companies globally, and I get the CEOs to judge. I could write a book about what they have said to me. One of them said, I didn't know that talent like this existed. We then go to the second pillar of that. We then had this amazing international community of women. We brought them together, realized that the challenges they faced were identical, no matter what sector they were in, what job function, and then companies wanted to join. They wanted to put their women, Exco -1, Exco -2, to join this community. And then this year, we've launched the Rising Leaders. This is for middle management, for women, and we are going to be introducing men. So it's powerful to just hear from senior women not only how good they are at their job, but actually the challenges that they face, that I think it's going to be really interesting for the middle management, particularly the men, to hear these stories, because I don't think they know, honestly, sometimes. But that's what we're doing at Weekwell.
Wonderful. Karima or Stefan, would you like to comment?
Yes, maybe sharing two dimensions, which I do believe matter when you want to change the culture of the place. Number 1, leadership. Mm-hmm. You mentioned it, and I think I absolutely agree with that. I don't think you can progress on terms of inclusion in diversity if you then don't change the nature of the people around the table, the nature of the people who decide and who make decisions. And at AXA, we've seen the change because we have been working on that in the past 12, 15 years. Today, we have 38% of women in our group ExCom, and we have 48% of women in our top 50, which means that half of our CEOs, our P&L leaders, are women. This didn't happen by chance. This happened through very hard work. Those past 12 years, hard work in succession planning, hard work in hiring, hard work in promotion, hard work in creating the culture that enables to bring more women at the top. But diversity is not only about gender, and this matters to me to once again really assert that diversity is not only about gender. So I think bringing diverse ages around the table. In our ExCo, we are from 38 to 65, and we have 7 different nationalities. and in our top 50, we have more than 20 different nationalities. It has been hard work to get there. And with that, I think the thing that once you have reached that level, you need to avoid falling into complacency, because it's easy to say we made it or we've progressed and so it's done. It's not done at all, because when you look at what's coming, you really need to work hard again, working at the pipeline. It's a never-ending work. So that's my first message. My second one is how you build the environment that is sustainable over time. And you mentioned the fact that companies are going beyond and doing things that are more and more coming into the private sphere. I would say the boundaries are more and more blurred between personal and private. As an insurer, we see that at play in our company, but as well in our clients, because we provide health insurance, we provide protection, etc. So this convinced us to go into this caring space and to launch a program that we call We Care, where we go into not only paternity leave, I would say like many companies have been doing those past 10 years, but as well offering caregiving leave, because we believe that 30% of people have caregiving duties, and most of them are women. So we have extended, in terms of health coverage, caregiving, fecundity leave, etc., those benefits, because we believe that's the duty of companies to get there. And here I'd like to talk about one dimension, which is close to my heart, which is domestic and sexual violence. You could say it's not originated in the workplace, and that's true to a certain extent. But as an insurer, what we have seen, because in France, for example, we provide legal assistance, psychological assistance through Health Angels to women victims of violence, we have seen that those victims, of course, have health issues, well-being, physical and mental health issues, but they are less progressing in their careers. They are less performing in their work. And so companies cannot say, okay, it's not, we don't care. So this convinced us to, as well, have a global policy on domestic and sexual violence, which we apply across the world to protect our employees, which are victims, with psychological assistance, with training somebody in each and every of our entities to be able to support. And which as well is about building awareness, building a training program, not only for everyone, for managers, for teams, to be able to raise awareness, because it can happen to you, it can happen to a colleague, and so it's not transforming each and every employee to a specialist, but to be able just to break the silence and be able to signpost to someone who can help. And here, I'd like really to make a call to any like-minded company, including my colleagues in this panel, just to join, because I do believe that companies can provide a safe space, can train employees, build the awareness, and we can build a better world. So I think caring in the workplace is something that contributes ultimately to performance, and as well to obviously advancing inclusion globally.
Stefan, shifting gears a little bit, we've already talked about employees and clients being two sides of the same coin. In the field of health and pharmaceuticals, the importance of diversity and inclusion is particularly crucial in order to ensure that health can be granted to all with the same expertise. So how does Bayer ensure a level of diversity from junior to senior positions?
Yeah, Kavita, first, it's true that when you think about health, health is probably the most inclusive state that we have, because we have different states of health in old, young, race, gender, and that's something that obviously is part of our daily work when we do clinical trials, for example, where we need to be very inclusive actually to have a representation of society. And it's a good lead into what we try to do with our own employee base as well. I could relate very much to what was said before, because I remember me coming into our company some 6 years ago, I asked a similar question. Why are there so few female leaders in our leadership? And there again, it's all about being intentional, because I don't know that there is a single company out there that doesn't put on paper that they're committed to an inclusive environment. The question is, how do you live up to it? And I think you need to do a couple of things to actually do that, to be that intentional. The first thing is you need to have very clear commitments that you can also measure. And it's not just gender diversity, by the way. It can be linked to race, can be linked to sexual orientation, can be also linked to age. And I think you related to that and you refer to that. So we have very clear commitments. And I could give you the numbers too, like you did. Ours are very, very similar now. And I remember when I first came, I had one woman on my leadership team, and I said, well, we're going to go to 50% guys in the next few years, and I'm going to be very intentional about that. And not only did we get there, almost got there, the problem is that the females that I promoted, they were so good that they were promoted again to CEOs of other companies, and so it's actually a very positive circle that we put into motion. But it's not just about being having commitments. You need to have clear process in your company to actually get there. You need to have and we are very strict about this. You need to have diverse slates for any role that we fill. So the answer, there are no females for this role, is just, we don't accept that, because on top of that, it's not true. I mean, I agree, there are some engineering roles where sometimes it's hard to come up with a diverse slate, but then we have to try harder. We need to train people. Unconscious bias is someone that, by the way, happens across the board, independent of gender, and it's something that needs to be trained. And I've learned this during my years, especially 15 years back in the U.S., when me as a European, I was going to the U.S. and I said, like, why are you doing this? And I sort of learned there that it actually does make sense and makes a difference, and you need to train people. And then thirdly, you need to create a culture that embraces an inclusive work environment. What we do, as an example, and I'm very proud about this, we have a number of, we call them BRGs. These are employee-led initiatives that promote diversity across a number of topics. I could give you examples, like myself, I'm a sponsor of one of these initiatives right now that promotes ages across from young to old, because we very much focus very often in the middle, and not so much at the younger or the older generation. And I think we're living in a world with the demographic changes where we need to probably put more attention to our older employee base instead of pre-retiring them.
Right.
And before that, I used to also head up our women's growth initiative. So those are things that we promote. Of course, we also do a lot of family-friendly stuff, so that you can actually combine your work environment and the duties that you have elsewhere. Sometimes I even think we're going overboard, because when I go through our office space, it's sometimes hard to find people there because they're all at home. I don't know if you have a similar problem or advantage in your company. And so I could go on and give you examples for where we do try to be culturally inclusive. Ultimately, you want to have people identify with this, and we have a slogan that we use: "Be you, be Bayer." So it's that people really self-identify across all the different walks of life with the company, and ultimately promoting that type of inclusivity, and that allows you to bring the best of yourself to work, as I said in the opening. Because if you can't see these things, then probably you won't do this. It's a little bit like what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. It's also what is not visible and what people don't feel to be real in your company. You can put very nice, shiny, glossy things out there in the corridors and in the hallways, but you have to live it, and you have to have examples. You have to have role models. I think you have to have leadership that not just talks about this, but that actively does this, and that serves as a role model for an inclusive workplace. And then you will attract better talent. And I think it's now proven, I mean, I don't have to tell you here, it's proven that if you have a diverse workplace, you're going to be more performant, and you will have a more engaged workforce, and you'll get better results.
Thank you. Karima, in many organizations, diversity initiatives can sometimes risk being seen as superficial or performative, speaking of performance. How does AXA ensure that representation of diverse voices, particularly women and minorities, is genuine and has a real impact on decision-making at all levels?
I think this comes to what I said. You first need to make sure that the people who take decisions represent those diverse voices. And so bringing more diversity to the top, age, gender, ethnicity, is what makes the difference at all levels, starting with your boardroom and your group exco, and who is the CEO, etc. So I think has been our work those past years. I think the measuring, I completely agree with what has been said. When I started many years back, we used to say, okay, you can measure engagement, you can't measure inclusion. I don't know if you had heard that. It's completely wrong. You can absolutely measure inclusion. And more companies now are coming into doing those inclusion measurement and surveys. And when you give the voice to people, and that's what we do since 4 years, every year we have an inclusion survey, and we ask to people questions such as, did you observe non-inclusive behaviors? Please give us examples. And we give back the results of this survey to people and to teams. They discuss that in teams. You change the culture of the place by making things explicit. There is nothing worse in an organization than being completely implicit about stuff. So making it explicit and discussing about it at top level, but as well in each of the teams is the way, because stereotypes are about each and every one. I have stereotypes and I have biases. Each one of us has. So the only way to change the culture of the place is to make sure that you have that constant dialogue with listening people and encouraging the dialogue between people.
So we could talk about this for hours, I think, but unfortunately we only have a couple of minutes left. I'm hoping that each of you can talk about one thing you do in your workplace that helps you value and connect to people the most, or perhaps how you would characterize an organization that does that. And Katie, we'll start with you.
So I think I'm going to talk about the Rising Leaders program that we do at WeQual, because that's what I've seen very recently, is that sense of belonging that the members feel. I think sometimes when you are in your role, and you've been in your role for years, you get a siloed thinking, and actually joining sessions which are very coaching, mentoring, doing those power skills, but also listening to other people from other companies, hearing their challenges, it makes you feel that you're not on your own and that everyone goes through these challenges. And that's what we really try and bring together at WeQual and our members globally, is that real sense of purpose and belonging. Because if you've got those two, you've got retention.
Thank you. Karima.
What I try to do is discuss with people internally, but as well externally, and just trying to better understand the trends in society, because ultimately what happens in your workplace are the trends in society. And there is one element, for example, which I spotted recently, and I'd like to mention here, is that stereotypes and sexism, we are moving backwards when we look at new generations. I don't know if some of you have looked at those studies that show that younger generations in many countries, sexism is increasing. The representation of men and women are increasing. So I think it's very important to have that awareness. And so I try to be connected with people internally, but as well to be involved in social work. So I have a social commitment outside of AXA, to be connected with associations, just to see how the world is evolving. Because I think at the end, you need to capture what's going on, and not to be, the danger when you're a leader in an organization is to be in your bubble. And so trying to break the bubble and to be as much as possible connected to what happens in society is extremely important to me.
Thank you. And Stefan, you have the last word.
So I lead an organization of more than 35,000 people in Bayer Pharma, and my goal is to be approachable, to be visible, to be connected to people. I started in this business as a sales rep, so I know all the ins and outs of what it means about hierarchy, and I've not forgotten about where I come from. So I love to being around our people in the production sites. I love to be around our salespeople. We have these CEO breakfast meetings that we're doing on a regular basis. I do coaching sessions across the organization where you can actually apply for a coaching session of 1 hour with me, which I love to do. It's typically much more fun than my normal day job. and so be real, be there, be authentic. Show people that you're a human too, and that serve it. I think it's so important that we act as role models across our employee base, and that's what I try. It's not always easy.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for sharing your wisdom with this group, and thank you.